Page 433. You pray and beseech, which you can do very well, but that it is demanded of you yourselves that you shall do something, and do a lot of work for what you demand and on yourselves, you want to know nothing of this, because it is uncomfortable for you, and would require you to think according to the truth. Nonetheless, however, you have the audacity, in the imperious belief in yourselves, to be autonomous, independent, and so full of power to be able to do, and not do, everything yourselves, as you want, and thus cultivate the delusion of being equal to the creation. Very many amongst you, you humankind of earth, you merely await and claim and believe that it is not you who must bow to the creational laws and recommendations, but it is they that must bow to you. Truly, wherever you look, you see only your doubtfulness, because on the one hand you live in an ausgeartet overbearingness against everything creational, and on the other hand you sink down in blatant submissiveness and cowardice before your invented gods, tin gods, angels, and saints, or before your human idols. Truly, you are missing the right self-evaluation and modesty, as well as the true love and the feelings for yourselves, as well as for your fellow human beings. And if you nonetheless want to search for and find the truth in yourselves and around yourselves, as well as in the creational laws and recommendations, then it is in the first place necessary that you descend from your artificial height that you have created for yourselves, because this is the first step you must take if you really and truly want to become a human being. You are like a bloated puffer fish that senses danger and thus blows itself up. So likewise you blow yourselves up and boast with your religious, ideological, or philosophical truth on knowledge and its irrational teachings, because you fear the creational truth of all truth. But consider how the pufferfish can, in an unheedful moment, find itself trapped between the fangs of its enemy and lose its life. So it will also go with you, if you are cast into ruin through your belief, and if that happens, you will have no more time to lose, to liberate yourselves from out of your hardship and out of your misery. Do not therefore think that, with regard to the truth-finding, it can go on endlessly in this wise, of the idleness, as it has been the case already for millennia, because sooner or later the time comes when you must turn to the true creational truth of all truth and connect yourselves with it. Do not therefore wait for any leader or helper from whom you expect, and indeed demand in a miserable wise, that they shall show you and prepare a way up to the light of the truth, because truthfully it is only you alone who must strive for the truth and strike and lead your own way. You must yourselves make everything comprehensible in such a wise that you can understand and logically follow it by choosing the right way, so that you find both the truth and yourselves in your inner nature. Therefore, search for and find the truth in your own intellect and in the rationality, and let the false leaders and helpers be what they are, because it is not they who can bring you the truth, but you alone, because you alone must bear the efforts, even if you believe that these efforts would be taken away through the false teachers, leaders, and helpers. Only if you call yourselves to the truth can you find the right way and the truth of all truth in you and in the creational laws and recommendations. But this requires you to strive for it yourselves and not follow false teachers, leaders, and helpers. It is your task to find the real truth as such yourselves, and to become knowing therein, not, however, to fall prey to a false conviction through false teachers and teachings, as well as leaders and helpers. You, however, you who are many, You believe that you yourselves do not firstly need to strive to find the effective truth, because these efforts would be done for you by any teachers, leaders, helpers, or prophets. Truly, you are foolish, and do not find the way of the truth in yourselves, which is itself the truth, and the culmination point, which is why you remain unknowing and suffer misery and hardship, are full of jealousy and hatred, and indulge in pathological craving for revenge, in retaliation and wars, as well as in crime, calumny, lies, and deception, and also in strife and destruction. Truly, you yourselves must awaken, because all the false teachers, leaders, prophets, and helpers, with their false teachings, cannot awaken you out of your sleep of the truth unknowledgeness. And you must also go the way of the rightful, the responsibility, and the conscientiousness alone, because only you alone can do all this for yourselves. Consider the true word, that you as true human beings are still not so valuable as you imagine and believe this, that you would be equal to the creation. But if you want to be trustworthy, then you must turn to the creational laws and recommendations, learn out of them, and fulfill them, because only thus can you become what you want to be. You humankind of Earth, you search for the truth of the life. However, you are searching for something that you do not yet understand, because you are captured in the belief in godheads and tin gods and human idols, and assume that this is the truth. But the effective truth is not based on a belief, but in truthly knowledge, and the thereout resulting unfallible wisdom and deep-reaching love. And as you do not understand the truth, so you also do not understand the life, and vegetate away in confusion, wherethrough, despite the progress you make in many areas, you remain far from the creational truth of all truth, and no longer know what you actually want. But be certain that sooner or later you will and must experience in yourselves what really shall be. You are a particular sort of human beings, because although you search for the truth that you do not yet understand, you criticize, insult, and slander it because you believe in godheads, tin gods, and human idols. How can you as human beings think and act so irrationally, since, after all, you possess the capability of the intellect and the rationality? You humankind of Earth, consider that you cannot keep on acting and living in this wise endlessly, because the truth and the life make no concessions, but rather demand their right in all things of the existence. But since you act contrary to this, with all the irrationality available to you, you tread yourselves, and in doing so, you cause yourselves pain, misery, and hardship, from which you can free yourselves only if you cast aside and reject everything which is contrary to the truth, and is therefore unrightful, and of the unright, as well as of the irresponsibility and consciencelessness. Those, however, amongst you, you humankind of Earth, who, thinking in intellect and rationality, are seriously searching for the real truth of all truth, for the truth of the life, the truth of the creation and its laws and recommendations, you are able to recognize that the whole humankind needs lies precisely in the fair, responsible, and conscientious, attentive, strict, and heedful thoughts and feelings, because the whole humankind is enmeshed very deeply in its consciousness indolence. And just with this, that the intellectual understanding concerning the words of the truth demands right from the beginning a consciousness-based activity, so however also a striving and a serious volition is the possibility given that already at the beginning of the consciousness activity, and thus the thought activity, the chaff can easily be separated from the grain, and therefore the truth can be understood. Therein lies an autonomous activity, as laid down through the creational laws, and as you, human beings, also fundamentally want it. Those, however, amongst you, you humankind of earth, who are that sort of human beings and think yourselves to be particularly active, you design a grotesque picture of teachers, leaders, helpers, and prophets, who are supposed to help you find the way of the truth and the truth itself. You are, however, extremely foolish, because you expect them to be really wise and knowing, and consciousness acrobats who can do miracles for you. You, however, let yourselves be deceived even deeper into the untruth, because they know only the untruth, and not the truth itself. And furthermore, you presume that they are clairvoyants and clairaudients, telepaths and channelers, but truthfully they understand nothing of this. And you also believe that they are emissaries of God, or truth-knowers, and great, quote, spirits, what in reality they are, however, not. And truly, if they were really capable of using the consciousness powers and of controlling the pineal gland in order to be able to be active in the realm of fine fluidal swinging waves, even then they would not be able to rise above the ban of the material, since these things also stir only in the lower boundaries of the material and can lay no claim to the purely spiritual. Consequently, they are rather worthless for the purposes of finding the truth of all truth, since they are no more, no less, than only aspects of the consciousness capabilities that can be used, if the way thereto is found and taken. You, humankind of earth, you cannot be helped towards a general rise up to the truth, and to the consciousness evolution, by showing you things and effects of the consciousness powers that you can see, hear, or feel, because this has nothing to do with a real rise up to the truth and to the consciousness evolution, as it also does not serve any purpose for your material progress. Things and effects that are brought about out of the consciousness powers are no more, no less than signs of the powers of the consciousness, nothing more than that, and are interesting only for entertainment, carrying out work, or for obtaining information, etc., for the evolution of the consciousness and using its powers, as well as fathoming out and following the effective truth that you find in yourselves and in the creational laws and recommendations, does not require any demonstration of the things and effects of the consciousness powers. That you, however, wish for yourselves teachers, helpers, gurus, clerics, as well as sublime ones and the like, who present you consciousness powers as miraculous signs and proof of the rightness of their belief in a godhead, a tin god, or demons, this is already founded in blatant ridiculousness, and even then, if you take their activities in this wise bitter seriously, if those worshipped and beseeched by you are even capable of bringing forth such signs of the consciousness powers, and you are of the irrational opinion that a true teacher and proclaimer of the truth is of godly nature, but this also corresponds to an irrational belief, such as the belief in a godhead, because a true proclaimer and teacher of the truth is a human being out of your midst, and is as integrated into all the heights and depths of the life as you yourselves, so therefore also into illness, health, accident, as well as fortune and unfortune. So they are not spared from these things, even if you think wrongly that such things cannot happen to a truthful teacher and proclaimer, because he or she is under God's protection. Truly, you do not consider that every Godhead is an insubstantiality, invented through you human beings yourselves, and is completely without energy and power, whereas true proclaimers and teachers are simple human beings, and thus integrated into the course of fortune and unfortune, and illness and health of the life. And since true prophets and teachers are in flesh, blood, and consciousness human beings, and therefore people of your kind, it is erroneous to assume that they were raised above unfortune and illness, or even above departing out of the life, because fundamentally, everything existent is integrated into these things and into the becoming and passing. If, however, you think that this does not meet the fact, then you make yourselves a wrong opinion, which sinks into complete ridiculousness. Consider, it is quite true that you, humankind of earth, shall help yourselves, which also refers to illness and unfortune, so you can bring under control illnesses and pains that simply belong, in one wise or another, to the material body, depending on how the bodily state of health is formed. But you cannot one-sidedly, through the Gevalt of the consciousness powers, make the body permanently insensible to internal and external influences, as this is also by no means possible by an outstanding, quote, great spirit. Truly, the body can one-sidedly be made temporarily insensible, e.g., through hypnosis and meditation, but anyone who is able to do this is nonetheless no outstanding great one, because the whole doing is merely based on the control of one's own consciousness powers, not, however, on the use of any godly powers, which do not exist. If, however, you believe in godly miraculous powers, which are purely illusory, if some amongst you can show signs through their consciousness powers that you understand neither as to their source nor to their effects, and in the final effect itself, and therefore believe that these are godly miraculous powers that bring forth everything, then you are human beings who stand there with shining eyes and open mouth, wishing you could do the same. Therefore, there are many amongst you who are in the present time still miracle believers, as well as, quote, spirit and God searchers, who cling to the untruth of a religious, demonic, ideological, or philosophical belief, through which, however, you realize no gain of the truth, but wander about in a dark vault of the truth unknowledge, which you yourselves have created. Truly, in your unknowledge about the truth, you are like consciousness-based clowns who are drunk from the belief and balance dangerously on a high-strung tightrope, in danger of falling at any time, but you do not recognize to where your doing will finally lead you. If you look at and consider your search for the truth of the truth, then you will experience that you do not know where you are actually going, and what you want to strive for. And you are living in the delusion that you cannot live alone, but rather only under the protection of a god, tin god, or idolized human being, a leader, helper, master, guru, or sublime one, and god equivalent, etc., who must be great enough that through his or her consciousness, which you wrongly call, quote, spirit, he or she can rule his or her body and his or her life to such an extent that he or she no longer knows any illness or hardship, as has been handed down to you slanderously since time immemorial, through stories of lies about true prophets. And consider, only the spirit itself cannot be afflicted by illness, unfortune, and hardship of any kind, because it alone is of purest creational nature, whereas the body has a pure material substantialness, and thus is directly connected with everything material. So, therefore, also, with illness, unfortune, and every hardship, as it is, on the other hand, also, with health, fortune, etc. But the spirit, or the spirit form, needs the human consciousness for its own evolution. Therefore also the body, wherethrough the consciousness and the body are connected with the spirit form. If, however, the body becomes weak or suppressed through any powers, then the consciousness can no longer evolve completely, because it will concentrate itself only on a specific direction, wherethrough everything else is neglected, and therefore no general consciousness-based evolution will occur, but only a purposeful and one-sided one. This will, however, lead to the swinging waves of the consciousness becoming too lifeless to bring the entire scope of its full power into the entire materialness of the body. Thus the latter begins to suffer here and there. Therefore, if you want to suppress an illness, or minimize or resolve an existing one, then you must put a great pressure on your body in a consciousness-based wise, by concentrating solely on the illness or the afflicted area, through which the illness or the pain resolves, in which case you, however, leave the rest of the body completely out of your attention, which can in turn be befallen by illness or pain. This is the same effect as when you have toothache, which you push away in yourselves through your fear when you go to the dentist. The fact is that such states of arousal are often brought about through you, humankind of Earth, and can be repeated several times without danger, but not permanently, otherwise serious harm will occur, and endless sufferings will be the result. If, however, false teachers, false prophets, gurus, masters, godly ones, sublime ones, or other idolized human beings advise you to do so nevertheless, then they infringe against the natural creational laws and recommendations, because consider, you shall treat your body as a valueful treasure that has been entrusted to you, and keep it safe as such, so as to bring about a healthy harmony between it and your consciousness, as well as with your spirit. You shall therefore not harm your body, and also not rob it of the life through suicide or commissioned murder.